a finance bill is a big accomplishment that I'd like to celebrate what these young people have done. It is something I am proud of you. We are proud of you. And you've done something my own generation was not courageous as you to do. And you have taken this to another level.
So just to your point, as I come back to this, there's two problems here that we have to contend with. There is the question of dialogue that keeps being bandied about. I want you to speak about this question of dialogue. And then at the tail end of this process, it's a political process. So there has to be a reasoning on how the public engages politically, because those changes have to happen in a political construct where the politicians have the experience more than anyone else.
So the issue of dialogue is who is dialoguing. So the referee cannot be the player. James, the referee can't be the player. And so you don't have the credibility. Now, the institution that I am part of, the church, has lost its credibility too. Yeah. When we were supposed to be doing what we were supposed to be doing, we were sitting in State House. So we've lost the credibility too. So there needs to be another umpire, another person doing this. We can learn from others. We're not the first ones to do this. So there are other actors that can come and do it. And secondly, James, it can't be a political process alone. Yes, we understand there are political processes that have to be happen, but there's also a place where we need to talk about the economics of this dialogue. We also need to talk about, and very big is just the philosophy of how we do it. So we cannot give it to the politicians. We left the politicians to do the final putting together of our constitution. And look what they gave us. So we can't trust the politicians. We can't. And I tell you guys, don't trust the politicians. We can't leave it alone to them. In as much as they are players, it has to be a collaborative effort.
Right. The question of how not leaving this to politicians then become an important question. There's hyper, right now, engagement. Every citizen is engaged with every document that comes from State House, that comes from, government. But that, in all honesty, is one thing that keeps them accountable. But at some point, as they say, people be like, I have things to do, as Nadia says. I need to go sell my tomatoes. I can't be every day on a space for 8 hours, right? That is my job. So walk me through this question of what part of engagement should we be talking about and accountability, and how does that look like so that we keep this process alive to make sure that we all don't lose our time and also don't get fatigued with the process?
I think one thing we need to appreciate, there was Goldenberg some time back. Let me start there. A report was prepared. People had a lot of discussions. We saw a lot of parading of people. Then that dwindled. We saw Anglo-Rising came. People ate public money. They could not be held accountable. Then that disappeared. People like, there was a Ndongo report on land justice. Nothing became out of it. The Commission on Justice and Reconciliation, there was a report about that. Nothing ever done about it. Until people are now tired. And what we are saying is, we want to see full implementation. And because we know some of these people cannot be able to do that for the obvious reasons that they don't believe in the Constitution itself. And it's very unfortunate, even the church took a position of fighting the Constitution, a very dangerous route in 2010. We need to, those who cannot do their job, they step aside and they allow those who can do the job to take over and steer this country in full implementation of our Constitution. Because some of these things, they don't need to remind the president that every child needs education. When the government was being formed in 1963, there were three things: poverty, diseases, and ignorance. Our education system still affordable and the people are able to go to school? No. Our hospitals still providing medicines? You find 8 counties are lacking medicine for BCG, for tuberculosis vaccination to children. We are exposing them, and someone has money where he can walk into a fundraiser and give the same money to the church. I always wonder what this project in the church that never end, and we attend the same churches. And so you go to that issue, the issue of poverty, ignorance, and the other one is, I don't know. The education, we have ignorance, we have diseases,
yes,
and we have poverty. How many Kenyans are living below $1 a day income? Most Kenyans are, that's why they are online. That's why you find them on login the whole day, because what else will I be doing? Moving around myself. Before I got an internship as an advocate, I remember I dropped 36 CVs in the city of Nairobi. And all the advocates will tell you, we'll pick you, but we can't be able to sustain you. Advocates are struggling. Doctors, we saw them, they are struggling. Those careers that all parents wished their children to become, you can imagine they are struggling. So what happens to the other Kenyan? It shows you that we need to get serious. We have talked about progressive realization of the socioeconomic rights. Have we seen the government put in place steps that are geared towards realizing this? Deliberate steps. So that we don't just talk about progressive realization. Progressive realization has a cutout that, are you putting up measures? We talked about two-third gender role. Up to date, they have not done anything. Justice Maraga reminded us before he left the office about that issue. No one has taken action about it. So what we need is not dialogue, it is action. I think that is what the leadership need to know, that we have talked too much. We need to see, I don't need to remind the member of parliament that I am telling you I don't want an extra tax. I want you to be accountable about that. I don't remind the member of parliament that I am paying you a salary of almost $1 million shillings, then I pay you allowance to attend your plenary. Who pays us to attend plenary? And you have a salary. Who pays you to attend a committee of the job you are employed to do by the people? What makes them so scared that once they get elected, they need 10 bodyguards? What are they doing wrong? They know it. And that's what we want them to address.
Okay. Nadia, you raised an important question the last time about the role of creative, and and we've seen what the creatives have been able to do for this movement in this time, using your own talents to push the conversation forward, musicians, comedians, and the rest. But also, there was a question about the corporate world that would stop you doing these things before. There was a reason for that, because the corporate world and the government work, hand by hand. What happens when that comes back? When you're told by the person who gives you the contract that I continue seeing you doing this Gen Z thing, I can't keep on supporting. What happens?
For me, I'd say any sane person that has seen how this revolution started. I remember the first thing was hisi time ya kupost. For instance, I work with StandChat right now. And I really appreciate them because we didn't have to tell them. They saw and they were like, you guys, you can do whatever you want to do. You understand? So for me, it's about, if you're a sane person, you can see that the pressure and the force is something that you cannot run away from. It will catch up with you. So I think we've had, corporates that have been really understanding and supportive, and we haven't been blacklisted yet. We haven't been sent that you're out of work email. So they have understood. And today, I just want to talk about the power of social media as well. Huwa wanasema msanii ni kioo cha jamii. Every time. Personally, when I started doing music, I was in Maseno University, and during the holidays, we'd go to Kenya National Theatre. And we had something, Najwa, if there's any creative here, they know PAL, Poetry After Lunch. And what most people don't know, I started out as a poet. And I'd go there, if I do a small, maybe small poetry, I'd have other guys just listening to them. And what these people would talk about is the social injustices. It meant that the time wasn't then. It's a process, it's a journey. We had begun that journey of going to Poetry After Lunch. You're listening to people talk their truths. Talk about, mimi nimetoka Kibera, these are the problems that I have seen. But now it has come a place whereby now we can retaliate that on social media. I can tweet and say, guys, MCSK needs to be held accountable. we can say PRISC was given the license to collect on behalf of the other CMOs. Public participation, has it happened? We are the artists, we are the ones who are paying for these people. And that is another conversation that has been held for so long, ever since artists before me found a problem there. I have come, I have found a problem there. And I am not going to leave, you know, because at the end of the day, there's a time gonna reach I'm not able to dance on stage as I am dancing right now. So it is, as I said before, it's accountable governance. We have to hold each and every person accountable. Kila mtu. Now, to the ladies, maybe when you are wamechaguliwa, ama they have been given a position, wasiende wakatuaibisha. We've seen the likes of Karen Nyamu, more of a socialite rather than a leader. There are so many deserving women. I am sorry to say that. It's a stray bullet, but it's the truth. There are so many deserving women who are intellectual, who are smart. We don't need to know your personal life. What have you done for the girl child? For the longest time, women have fought. You're given a position, and all we can talk about is your personal life. She really needs to check herself. Yes.
All right, thanks. Maria, if anyone engages with politics, and we look at this in this sense, that it would be foolhardy for anyone to think that the political class is going to walk away from this and surrender and say, okay, you guys have won, fantastic, we're out, okay? That is not going to happen. They're going to rely on what they do best, which is politics. And I suspect this is what's going to happen in the next 2-3 years. From where you sit, with all these issues that we need to solve, and there are many, right? And they're serious, you know, parliament and constitutional, you know, two-third gender rule not anywhere being affected. There are many things on the priority of this list we just don't know and don't have. Give us some advice. How should we look at these questions that we exercise our minds and say we should have priorities, bare minimums, and go forward? Because the political class will have that. And this is a long battle, as Reverend Goyo has told us.
Yeah, so I think the first thing, we need to appreciate that the country has changed. It's not business as usual. So there's been a shift in the minds of Kenyans. Whether they're saying it or not, whether they're organizing or not, it's present. And we have to seize the moment. So where do our leaders come from? They come from within us. Today we'll sit here and say, hey, James unatosha mboga. Where tutakuchagua? But what happens? What happens? What follows after? Hey, Mhesh. What do we say? Toboka. Kakitu ka lunch. Mhesh. That's the problem. Our politics, our governance is transactional. And the minute I give you a 50 bob, a 100 bob, a 200 bob, I'm done with you until next time. So this shift has to be literal. Like, we can't just talk about it, we have to live it, we have to talk it, we have to walk it. The fact of the matter is, politicians are smart. Even the ones we say are uneducated are street smart. So they will just look at what is trending and jump on it. And if we've decided that going forward, we're serious about our governance, we're serious about who gets into office, how the hell does somebody get elected while they're in jail? How do you get elected after shooting somebody dead? And DCI put out a notice that they're looking for you, and you get elected. So what Nadia, what Mike Mushiri, what other artists and individuals and human rights activists have been doing needs to be amplified. Take civic education very literally, because there are people who think that there's an MP, I think he's called Hamala, in Western. He was telling his people that sasa mjue tunamaliza maneno ya CDF, sasa msikuje kwangu kuniomba. Because that's the way things are done. You come, you ask me for 300 bob, sawa, sawa. And he'll not perform. He will not build that road. I mean, nothing will get done. So we need to amplify the voice of civic education. I think that's very important. People need to understand why electing an MCA is very important, because that's a person who's closest to you in terms of resources that have been devolved to the county. Why a political party is not more superior to an individual who's representing you at the ground. It's important for us, and I think you've debunked this, that tribalism is no longer a factor. And as long as it remains a non-factor, we are ahead. So mtu wetu, that politics is gone. So if we keep at it, and if we keep agitating for the very things that we're actually talking about, governance, accountability, transparency, right from the elective positions. And I think this is an opportunity for young people. You can get elected without being on a party. Yeah, but remember, if our institutions, and this is a very critical point for me, James, if our institutions are not safeguarded, today our institutions are failing us because they're at the mercy of the executive. Why? Because the executive pays. They're the ones who provide a budget. So everybody who's in a position of leadership, a position of governance, a position of representation is swallowed by the system. And we talked about the system. When you get there, you're given, the first thing you're given as a chairman is an allowance, sitting allowance. The next thing, mkubwa unataka gari gani? And that thing gets to your head and you forget why you got there in the first place. So let's fight for our institutions. Let's get our institutions back. Let's make sure anybody who's nominated to serve on those institutions is a credible person, and they can always pass the suitability test that is Chapter 6. Remember, in Kenya, we don't have an absence of laws. Steve Wanjiru talked about the conflict of interest bill that is currently in Senate. That bill, it's not that we don't have laws that could have jailed people for conflict of interest. Right. What we've had is deliberate missteps in the application of the law. So the unification of these laws is important. And that's why when you said that, what will we do going forward? Because people will get tired and they'll go back to doing what they need to do. Let us just hold people to account. Start by recalling. And I like that process that people are actually taking now. And let's keep whoever is in office accountable. Let's keep them on their toes. Let's get involved in the budget-making process. Do we know when the cycle starts? Because it's about to start again in September. Right. So that eternal vigilance. It's a lot to ask for the citizenry, but I think it's a price we are ready to pay, and it's been obvious from the reasons.
I want to get one comment from Sylvia, who's been waiting for like an hour. Sylvia, if you can have your minute now, what is the thing that you want us to do next? Do you have Sylvia?
Yes, good afternoon.
Go ahead.
I'm speaking as a lay person that according to how things are right now, we understand that a government is formed by three arms. I think we have three arms of the government. But as things are now, it's like the parliament and the executive have merged. So we do not have oversight. The legislature, people like the MPs are supposed to represent the people who voted them to go there and do the legislation. But even if they do the legislation, is it favoring a common citizen? Everything they are doing is about them. So I was asking, I'm speaking as a lay person, so just pardon me, and if at all I'm wrong, just try to enlighten me more. As a lay person, under Article 1 of the Constitution, can I say clause number 2, which says that people can exercise their right, is it their right, directly, or can I say the leadership or something? Like we can exercise our power directly. Now, how do we do it legally? Because right now, the parliament is there, but it's like we are the ones who are doing the job. We are here on the streets. We are the ones providing oversight. We are the ones pushing for better legislation. So how do we go about it? Because all this mess is because whoever we put in power messed us up. This also has come about because of the micromanaging, the executive micromanaging the other two, trying to micromanage the other two arms of the government. How do we get ourselves into this?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I think just an important question, and maybe I'll start with you, Mary, then we'll go to Goi. This idea that you elect people to get to office and they decide that we know best, all right? In fact, you become very clever all of a sudden, and I know what you want. And I think we saw that on this finance bill, that MPs literally told everyone that you guys have no point whatsoever. We know best, and we'll do what we want. How do we stop that from ever happening again? That a person who gets elected becomes truly a servant, not our lords?
I think it just goes back to the same thing of public participation, because what happens is that we have to accept that once we elect a leader, we are expecting that they will go and deliver on the mandate. So the issue of, did we elect a party or an individual? Because usually the wave, you're told, this one got in kwa sababu ya wave. And the people were with the wave. So that's why some of the MPs had the temerity to tell us, it's not you, it's the party. It's not you I'm accountable to, it's the party. So the first thing is, because you cannot recall an MP until they've been in office for 2 years, is just to keep a record of it, I guess. Because now, constitutionally, you cannot recall before a certain period. But the fact of the matter is that the way we have seen participation being carried out with creation of ChatGPT, breaking down the information, that's the first thing. Breaking down the information, ensuring it reaches people. Petitions are online. It's easier now to find people, to bring people together. Before you had to be, moneyed to do these things. Right. So it's much easier now.
Okay. Reverend Goi, how do we make our politicians actually work for us? How do we stop the arrogance, the kiburi that they have, that because I'm in office now, I do whatever I want?
The message has already been sent. Yeah. The message has already been sent. And what I'm very happy to see is now legislators now are being very penitent about what they're doing. That's one. But then the second one is just adding what she has just said in itself. There are ways we can just keep our legislators accountable. One is just, there's a roll call in Parliament. So when you go in Parliament, you have to, sign in. And so we need to be able to see, just the way when we're in school, you sign a roll in itself. Were you present? And that information is available to any person in the public. We know one legislator now who has barely been in Parliament for 1.5 years or so, that is now out in the public space. And then thirdly, it's being able to get access to your member of Parliament and demanding access to your member of Parliament as often as you can. Like you have a constituency office. How often is this member of Parliament in their office? And so that is another place where you can go and demand to be able to see them. What are your office hours at the constituency office? That is where you can meet them at their local office. And if you are a big office, the government has given this MP or legislator the resources to cover the entire, like North Hall. That's a huge constituency. But there are different constituency sections where you can meet your legislator. So those are some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah. Steve.
Yes, I think, sorry. I was thinking, as I was talking, I was thinking about how we gauge our MPs' performances. And we diverted it to the duties and the responsibilities that are with the ministers, cabinet. Those are the parameters most of the time we gauge when we are voting for a member of parliament. Amejenga barabara ngapi? ameweka mashule ngapi. Is that the job of a legislature? No. Because that has been the parameter for voting. So I think even as we move forward in this conversation, and as I address your concern, we need to do an inward reflection as a people and ask ourselves, are we expecting the wrong things from the right people? Are we voting you as a member of parliament? Then we expect you to build roads for us. Then we have a cabinet which has a ministry of road and a budget to do roads. So that is where we spend our money, wastage, and it becomes a point of a lot of wastages and privileges. And I think my feeling and my contribution to this conversation of the young people, and I want the whole Kenyans to embrace this, not as a Gen Z affair, but the spirit of the youth. Why the spirit of the youth? I want to say this quoting Henry Ford. There's something he said that the greatest thing you can do to yourself is to keep your mind young. Why do you need to keep your mind young? Because at your formative age is when you have a vision, is when you have ambitions. So once you become old and you allow the aged you to be complacent, you lose the vision. We got our constitution in 2010 with a lot of ambition. That was our youth at that time. We got our independence with a lot of ambition. Then what did we do? We became complacent. That's where these guys, when you visit them, they give you a handout. Before you even negotiate, you live with a bahasha. You see a priest has gone to State House, they're living with a brown bahasha. And you saw them walking in, they didn't have one. So I don't know, there's a Bible inside there. You create an office of intercessors, as in like your prayer request. These are crazy things that we have been witnessing as a country. And it's high time we start holding our leaders accountable. Even the judiciary itself. The last time there was we find, with all due respect to the courts, we filed a petition challenging the deployment of the military. And I don't need to go to the details, but we all saw the live stream of that particular ruling. We all read the Constitution. I don't need to remind anyone the clause in the Constitution. And we can question the integrity of such a person when they are holding a public office. So we need to hold these people accountable. We need to have the right people doing the right job and not putting the wrong people. That's why I keep on saying, until and unless we push for the removal of CDF from the hands of parliamentarians, we are going to continue electing people because they are giving us money. That's why they buy the ticket, because I buy it. I have friends who contribute, give me campaign money. Why is it costing almost 50 million to join parliament? If I save the whole salary for parliament from day one to the last day, I can't raise 50 million. Even if you work with the simplest mathematics, because they have a lifestyle to maintain. So there's a lot of inward reflection that is needed, both to the people, to the president, to the leadership, at all levels and at all arms, and we need to hold them serious accountable.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Goi Odera, nashukuru sana, Steve Bugwa, and Maria Menekap. You've all done very well, thank you for the panel. I leave Nadia to perform as we exit the stage. Thank you very much. You've all been very nice and very kind.
Thank you very much.
DJ.
It was a great pleasure.
Ngoja.
Thank you very much.
Ningewaomba tusimame. Let us stand up, please. You know, when I came here, I didn't come today to perform, by the way. I didn't come as a Kenyan artist, a celebrity. I came here as a concerned Kenyan. And first off, I want to send my condolences to the families of the bereaved soldiers who we were together kwa barabara, kwa streets as we were fighting. So my biggest condolences to the family and to anyone here who's been affected by this time. As Boniface has said, yeah, they've partnered with Kenya councillors. What is it called again? I think I've forgotten the name. So you can see them after this. And for me, it's also to say, we've had a win, yes. We've had some wins. But at the same time, we need justice for the people, to the families zenye wameachwa na wapendwa wao. They need closure. Ama namna gani? Tuweke ngoma imechangamka kidogo. Weka maombi. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio jujuni, si keleleni. Turudie tena. Ngoja. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio jujuni, si keleleni. Tene kazi di. Hoya hoya hoya. Hoya hoya hoya.
Vicky Fundes.
Nilichopata nikiomba walisema kitakwisha. Nikitoa shukurani hadharani wakasema najamba. Hao binadamu walilipa wiki. Sasa imepita miaka bado wanasubiri. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Twende wote. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Hey. Sio juju ni maombi. Ni maombi. Si kelele ni maombi. Ni maombi. Sio juju ni maombi. Ni maombi. Si kelele ni maombi. Ni maombi. Hoya hoya hoya. Hoya hoya hoya. Hoya hoya hoya. Ati. Na mikono nitainua, magoti nipige, niweleze jinsi alivyotenda katika maisha yangu. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Kazi ya Mungu kweli haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio chuchu ni maombi. Asanteni sana. Ni maombi. Si kelele ni maombi. Ni maombi. Sio chuchu ni maombi. Ni maombi. Si kelele ni maombi. Ni maombi. Asante sana, asante, asante, asante. Ila Mungu hawezi kubali uanguke. Alichoanzisha leo lazima atakamilisha. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Kazi ya Mungu.
Tushaskia kwa Douglas. Tushaskia tukiingia ni kublast huko ngabado unachukiwa madam, so anguka nao itabaki meflow na vibe. Anguka nao koko single for now. Douglas mteja patika hadi DJ
Tushaskia wa Douglas. Aha, tushaskia. Tushaskia tukiingia ni kublast huko ngabado unachukuliwa madam, so anguka nao itabaki meflow na vibe. Anguka nao koko single for now. Douglas mteja patikani hadi late night saa 6 ndo taniwai. Nikupin location na nikofana na hii. Sukate call niko chumba ya G. Ninajua utakuwa irizo. Hata nikushow kwanza form ya Don. Nishashika mpoa, atende chini kwa chini akiwa hadi na mimi. Sasa unasikiza Shen City tuna feel free. Take a video na post pale NGC. Jina ni Kantel Kurapsi ni talent. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo, twende down low now. Stand juu ya fit mikono juu alafu click. Tuliza pesa alafu one leg. Anguka nayo. One leg. Check it. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Check it. Anguka nayo kama uko na new catch. Anguka nayo kona new catch. Anguka nayo kona patina magwash. Anguka nayo for now. Dagi mteja patikani kadi late night saa 6 ndo taniwai. Ati anguka nayo. ati anguka na katika msupa webanjuka, cheza chini kikondeza madudha, anguka nao zinazoshaitisha, anguka ndani matisho za wadaglis babe, ama dali, istangu serikali, juni serikali, tamka asali, tunajua ni nani, flow shati, ki, ndo nimeduka hapo dauni, chi, kutekewa mpoa daily ni, ti, mana zi, mana zoko, anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
ati anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
ati anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
ati anguka nayo kama kuna relax,
Anguka nayo
kona pati na
magwasha.
magwasha,
Anguka nayo koko single for now.
anguka nayo, ati anguka
Wana
nayo,
nayo.
anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
anguka nayo, ati anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
anguka nayo, kama uko na new cash,
Anguka nayo kona pati.
pati na magwash, anguka nayo round 2 kwa iba, anguka nayo,
Anguka nayo.
cheki, anguka nayo, anguka nayo, ati anguka nayo, anguka nayo, cheki, DJ,
Anguka nayo.
hey, anguka nayo.
A round of applause. A round of applause for the guys, Anguka Nayo. Thank you so much for your patience. We get into another session, a round of discussions as well. I'd like you to help me welcome my set of panelists on stage. The first person that we have is Otsiemo Nyamoya from the Human Rights Watch. Please, a round of applause for him as he makes his way up. Thank you so much. You can have a seat. And then we have Dr. Njoki Wamae. She is an assistant professor of politics and international studies from the USIU Africa. Please, a round of applause for her. Kwani tumechoka kupiga makelele? Tumechoka? Tumechoka? And then the next panelist is Cyprian Nyamwamu. He is from the Kenya Bora. Thank you so much. And then we have Boniface Mwangi, the human rights activist. We all know him. Please. I am Linus Moshigadi. I will be facilitating this round of discussions. Please, karibu sana.
Linus.
So I want us to begin from where we've come from in terms of activism in Kenya and what brought us to where we are here today. So I will begin from you, Boniface Mwangi. You have been an activist. What has been the changes, the journey, and what has been the difference with this set of protests that we've had in Kenya?
The journey began in 1922 when a lady called Nyanjiro stood up on what is called known as Harithuku Road. And she told the men who are there, if you're not going to challenge these police officers, give me your trousers. And from challenging that, that was the first recorded protest in this country. And that particular day, I think over 100 people died, but the British never recorded how many people died. And Nyanjiro was killed on that particular day. And fast forward to today is that there's been a passing of the baton over the years to a level where Cyprian is organized via phones and in person, to where we are now organizing online, where people show up and say, you know what, online has become our public square, but now the public square is going offline. So you go online and say this is the issue, and you go offline. But I think the game changer is most of the young kids in this country are very angry about the state of the nation, and then they are fearless because they have nothing to lose. They are hungry, they are angry, they are unemployed. I was talking to some young people from the gate, and they're telling me, we're so broke we can't even date. You can't even have a girlfriend. You can't even make someone, you can't even think of starting a family, because how are you going to feed that mouth? So when the president decided to bring the finance bill, and it's going to even tax those who don't even have jobs, they're unemployed, with this it's called SHIF, this thing that is there. The anger just exploded. So where are we at? We are very hopeful as a country. Kenya has changed forever. Let no one lie to it, it hasn't changed. That's where we are at. Kenya landscape has changed, and people have reclaimed back their sovereign power. We're in charge right now. And it's like you're trying to push out a baby. It's a very critical stage, because if you make a mistake, the baby might die and kill the baby, and the mother or one of them survives. So you must midwife this process very, very carefully, that is not carjacked. The last few days, you've seen the old fossils, these very old politicians, trying to steal the struggle from the people. They're trying to own that space. And there's a possibility the next 2 days, Saturday is a Harambee Day and Burials Day, so tomorrow they're going to be all over with one agenda to center Raila Odinga in this conversation, and we refuse.
That's a very good point, and I would go back to it. Let's hear from Cyprian. From your own perspective, what has the journey been for you in terms of the activism we've seen in Kenya?
Well, the journey has been real. It has been tough. We've lost people. I thank God that I'm alive. When we went to committee, we saw the cells where a lot of our comrades in the 1980s died in prisons, including Naivasha, Kamiti, Shimo La Tewa, and all those jails and prisons. The torture chambers that used to be physical at Nyayo and Nyati House are now happening, and our young people are being thrown into swamps. But I don't want to talk about myself today. I want to answer only one question that you've asked. What is different between the struggles that we have been in and this one? Because I think that's something that has been missed in all the conversations I've listened to. And my answer is this. This is the only generation which has refused to be used. The only generation which has refused to be used. And I want to use that to bring the struggles. The Mau Mau, Modoni Nyanjiro was the mother of the Mau Mau. If you look at it, the Mau Mau were used. They died, they were deprived of land, they were kept in cells and in jails. Dedan Kimathi died, but they were used by the home guards, the Kenyatta, the Jomo Kenyattas and the home guards who took over power. Then the second liberation, which we died for, we went to jail for, to bring back Section 2A. We were again used. The people who took over power were not the people who were in the fight. Then comes the Kenya Constitution 2010, which the likes of Osieno and myself and all of us in Jokia invested our lives in. Who is the beneficiary of the Constitution of Kenya 2010? William Ruto. The one who said no is the one who is the president. Uhuru Kenyatta, who was against the Constitution, and Rigathi Gachagua are the people who are the beneficiaries of the Constitution. Again, we were used. This is the only generation since Kenya was established as a colony. Kenya became independent. We only have one generation which has refused to say, which has said, you are not going to use us. Raila every time uses dead young people in the streets to negotiate handshakes. 2007, the numbers who died 1,000, by the way, the number was more than 7,600, but we used the number that the government gave us. Then we went into handshake. Comes 2017, hundreds are killed. Power is shared. Then we come to 2022. Last year, you saw 75 died. They were used to form NADCO. The young people are saying there is not going to be another dialogue where you are going to use our deaths to gain power. So I have to give it to these Gen Zs. I have to give it to them. that they have stopped something tragic, treacherous that has been going on about Kenya, and this generation has said no more using our blood, our sweat, and our tears to negotiate power.
Thank you so much, Cyprian. Dr. Njoki, rallying on the conversation here, the journey, what is your perspective?
Just something, and thank you. I'm glad we are talking about the journey, because the last 3 weeks, if you even try and get into any of these spaces, it's impossible. You don't have 100,000 followers to speak. So I'm happy we are here acknowledging also the journey. So, and we can look at it in 3 phases. Of course, before independence, Mau Mau and all the rest, like Muthoni Nyanjiro from 1922. Mau Mau is our DNA. Resistance is our DNA, right? Don't ever forget that. For us Kenyans, only 2 countries resisted the British or the French violently before 1970. Later we had the Portuguese resisting. But before 1970, there were only 2 countries, and one was Kenya, and the other one is which one? You know, I'm a teacher. Yes. Algeria. Yes. The liberation front in Algeria. In Africa is only those 2 countries. So, and it's because of the Mau Mau, and you know the guerrilla warfare that they fought. So resistance is our DNA. And with that, of course, even post-independence, people resisted the fascist state that Kenyatta, because many times we are just looking at this Ruto. We are forgetting the mistake started from Jomo Kenyatta, because he instituted a very fascist state. You know the many deaths that are still unresolved. And this politics of let's forget and move on is what got us where we are, a country where impunity is our DNA now. Right? And so we need to look at that past from Kenyatta, the mistakes he made, and especially in setting up the structures of Kenya. Look at Tanzania with all its problems. Tanzania is doing much, much better in terms of politics. Kenya, we keep bragging about our economy. So what? The economy, if you don't have your rights, those chapter 4, the Bill of Rights, not just the what do you call it, social and political rights, but also the economic rights. But the social and political rights are the foundation that offer you the space to demand for the others. And the social and political rights, which are enshrined in chapter 4, they should be protected. We already have them. And that's why we are saying, for me, I'm saying, let's not get excited with his changing ministers, because they'll still come back. We should be looking at chapter 4 and chapter 6. Chapter 4, our rights. Our people have been killed. Young people have been killed. These universities where I also teach, they are quiet. You know, so till we have justice, till we have the killer cops arrested, till Koome is gone, you know, and those are some of the things we are saying must change. Then we can deal with, as we deal with the rest of everything. But having said that, it's a good moment. I think Gen Z is probably now what we can call the third liberation. This is I think we've now entered the third liberation. And the second liberation, and I'm glad we are here in this hall. Those of us who don't know, this hall is a very important hall, Ufungamano. And Cyprian is here. I've seen many other comrades who are there those days during the IPPG reforms and NCC especially, and the National Convention on
National Convention Assembly Executive
Exactly.
Council.
That's where the Constitution of Kenya was changed, and Section 2A was repealed, and that's where we can tell off Zakayo and anybody else about why, because we fought for that constitution. And it's really sad that we have to keep fighting. That's why we need to have the right people in power, so that we are not fighting, so that it's people who also think like us, people who know human rights is part of state making. And I'm very glad, because that second liberation, first liberation was the Mau Mau and what they did. and the people who liberated Kenya. Remember, you need to also know who liberated Kenya, because the challenge is opportunists took over the real liberators like Dedan Kimathi. Second liberation, it is those people who fought for the second liberation of this country and the return of and who helped us get the constitution. And some of them are here. Please wave, because we need to acknowledge you. Please wave. I've seen some people, second liberation, Kegoro there, unanyamaza too. You know, thank you, comrade. Because we have to, many of us, especially the new Gen Z activists, we are forgetting the journey. When you get that pace, remember this is a marathon. People have died, people have been there. What do we call them?
Social justice.
The social justice centers have been killed on the streets, have been walking in these streets. Kina Mama Rahma, please, let's wave also. Let's acknowledge these people, you know, and all the social justice activists, Olal, Viva comrades. These are the people who have brought us to this moment. So let's not look at it as it's 3 weeks, oh, now. We must always carry that journey. And when you're given to that opportunity, remember those people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's tweak the conversation a little bit, and let's talk about the journey when we look at police accountability and brutality. Of course, police have been there throughout the journey in terms of the first liberation, as Daktari talked about. But with the new Constitution 2010, there was different expectation in terms of how they would engage the protesters. So Otsiero, take us through how the journey has been and how do we make police accountable?
Thank you. My name, I'm called Otsieno Namwaya. I work with Human Rights Watch, but I will also speak more broadly because I've been an activist since the 90s. First of all, I think last week or early this week, I had somebody say in Parliament, I think it was Danson Mugatana, that this is the third liberation. The second liberation there was in the 90s, and then there was the independence struggle. And I think it is broadly true, but I have a different thinking, because the second liberation in reality aborted. Picking up from what Daktari has said here, it aborted because if you look at some of the discussions we're having here, they were the same discussions, partly the same discussions we were having in the 90s. The issue of the portrait of William Ruto. I remember sometime, I think 1997, we were the Gen Zs then, we were called Generation X. We had in this same spot, Cyprian, correct me, but we were wondering, why do we have Moi's portrait everywhere? And that we need to stop that. That's part of imperialism. So having said that, that struggle, second liberation struggle picked up from independence struggle, which a lot of people believe that the independence struggle aborted and died with the death of Dedan Kimathi in 1957. If you look at movements such as FERA, which is February 18th Revolutionary Army, or Stock Movement, which was with people like Akina, Brigadier Odongo, Raphael Wangondo, and the rest, the reasoning even for naming it FERA was that we aborted the struggle in 1957. We need to pick it from where we aborted it. That was 1957. That's why it's called February 18th Revolutionary Army. Dedan Kimathi was killed on February 18th, 1957. So it is part of the long struggle. So picking it up from there, I was supposed to talk about police accountability. I don't want to go into details of repeating some of the things that some of the speakers who are here in the morning had already spoken about. I want to basically flesh out some of the worrying trends that we have noticed for the last maybe 7 years that we need to be really worrying about and calling out the authorities for what is happening. Let me talk about IPOA a bit. IPOA was basically created by the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and then operationalized by the 2011 law, IPOA Act of 2011. But it came effectively into operation in 2012 when they were constituted, and then they started setting up in 2013. By 2013, we had a lot of hopes. They had just 6 investigators. But they could try to reach everywhere. They would be in Kisumu, they would be in Nairobi, they would be where? There were just 6. Right now, IPOA has approximately 100 investigators. But what do? If you look at their case success rate from 2013 to now, how many cases have they successfully prosecuted? How many? I think about 12, if I'm not wrong. I think about 12 or 13 cases. How many cases have been filed with them? At some point, IPOA used to post these details on their website. They no longer do that. Why? Because if you look at the cases that have been filed with IPOA, by around 2018, 2019, there were around 7,000 cases of police brutality and police misuse of power and all that. How many could they investigate? There are about 100, maybe 1,000, up to 2022. How many have they successfully prosecuted? About 22. However, the details, those details don't tell you the problem with IPOA right now. IPOA was initially, in the thinking of the 2010 Constitution and the Second Liberation, the issues we had, especially after the 2007 elections and the killings by police, was that we need a civilian institution where people can walk in and report police abuses, so that people don't have to go to a police station to report cases to be investigated by the same police officers who have committed the offenses. So it was created as a civilian institution. It was supposed to be friendly, welcoming, understanding, transparent. But what has happened today, if you look at IPOA, it has transformed itself. It has become more like a police institution. So it's no longer transparent. Those cases they used to post on their website showing how many have come and which ones are killings, which ones are torture, they no longer post that. Then the other is that they are no longer acting like they are civilian. They are more interested in parleying with the police and being called to State House than actually opening their doors for the civilians to report cases. And then the issue of their performance, I know people will celebrate, we have IPOA because 12 police officers have been prosecuted, they have been sent to jail. But there's nothing to celebrate. If you look at the number of killings we have had since IPOA came into place in 2013, they cherry pick cases. So if there's a police officer who has killed somebody in Kangware and there's pressure, the government is also worried or embarrassed, they go and investigate and prosecute that one. But killings such as what is going on today during protests, we have never had IPOA prosecute officers for killings during protests because those are state-sanctioned killings. So in 2017, there were over 100 cases we documented. I think there were more, but we documented 104. IPOA has focused on 2, Baby Pendo and Stephanie Mora, cherry-picking what they can prosecute because these are low-hanging fruits, but they don't go to the bottom, the root cause or the root cause of the problem. So out of 100 plus, they picked 2, and they never even successfully prosecuted. People are having to go and prosecute them on their own. Between 2014 and 2015, there were over 100 people who were disappeared in Nairobi, Northeastern, Coast Region. We presented these cases for IPOA. To this day, they have never prosecuted any. In 2020, during Corona, there were over 20 cases. I don't know how many have been prosecuted. Last year, there were over 70. They promised to take people to court. I think by October, they were saying they're going to court. Nobody has been prosecuted. This one is going to go the same way. So even if IPOA, in fact, their behavior this time has been more strange because before then, we used to communicate with them. We used to know what they're doing. Right now, they have shut their doors. They don't want to say what they're doing. We need to start calling out IPOA. That's one. The second one, I'd asked for more time, if you don't mind.
If you could hold on, we could come back in terms of now what needs to be done to ensure the accountability.
I'm trying to flesh out. So what needs to be done in the terms of IPOA is to begin to call for more accountability, more transparency for IPOA.
Okay.
If you allow me to just go through the 3 points.
Okay.
So the other worrying trend is when it comes to accountability, especially where there are killings like what we have now, police are refusing to do their bit. So the National Police Service Act of 2011 says that police, as 2012 I think, police are supposed to, once there's a killing, police are supposed to do preliminary investigations. The commander is supposed to share details of that investigation with IPOA, with the Inspector General. Then IPOA picks up from there to start the investigation. That preliminary investigation never happens. So IPOA has to start struggling to understand which police officer shot, what happened, what were the circumstances of the shooting. That should have been in the preliminary report. And then the second thing is that when killings happen in a setting like what we have today, the demonstrations and the protests, what is supposed to guide IPOA in investigating those cases is what is called the operational order, which is basically says which police were deployed where and which orders were they given. And then the second one is what is called the Register of Movement of Arms and Ammunition, which basically gives you now, narrows down when somebody is killed to understand who had which ammunitions, who had which gun, and who was where. So when the investigations come, like in Kisumu, a lot of the killings that happened in 2017, police refused to hand over the Register of Movement of Arms and Ammunition. Police refused to hand over the operational order. So it became impossible to understand who shot where, but they're covering themselves up. But they only do that because of lack of political will. What they're doing is political. It's a political order to kill. So what's the problem there? It is lack of police independence. And it takes us back to the struggle of the second struggle, which was to ensure we have an independent police authority. And then the other is the issue of the new trend that we have seen from 2017 is the role of the hospitals and mortuaries. So in the past, you would go to a hospital and a mortuary, and quickly you get the register and get to know who has been brought in, who was shot, who was killed. And then you get to know their names and you get to know their injuries. Today, what they are doing is that they have created two registers. And that's why I was cautioning our colleagues in Githurai, don't say you have only 2 or 3 killings, because you don't know the killings. Or we went to Kenyatta Hospital and we found 3 bodies. You need to do more to understand how many people have been killed. Right now I'm hearing people say 50 people have been killed. It's not 50. You don't know. Because what's happening in mortuaries is that they cleared 2 registers. So the front one is the normal one, where they put like 3 or 4 cases. So when you go to look for people who have been killed, they show you that one. But there's another police register where they have all the other bodies. So after 25th, the invasion of Parliament, at City Mortuary they had 6 bodies. And we're wondering, but how can they be 6 when even at Parliament alone, we know that at least 8 were killed? And they refused, they just said 6. Later on, we came back and talked to the staff, and we realized there were other bodies being hidden elsewhere which were not in the register. And that is happening not just there. We saw it in Kisumu in 2017. They hide those bodies, and they make sure you never get to know what exactly happened. We also know that sometimes they don't take those bodies to the mortuaries. In Kisumu, we discovered bodies, I think bodies were discovered in Lake Victoria, at around 26 bodies, 3 or 4 months later, after we had looked for bodies in JTRH, in Kisumu District Hospital, everywhere. There were no bodies, but they had been thrown elsewhere. Even this one, let us be very careful, because we don't know where those bodies are.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Going back to Bonnie, you spoke about the opposition wanting to take this civic engagement that we've seen in Kenya for the last 4 weeks. What is your reaction? Do you feel they're bringing back the political rhetorics and reaping where it's not so?
It's a betrayal of the people. So one of the constant factors in the last 20 years has been Raila Odinga. He shook hands with Moi, shook hands with Kibaki, shook hands with Uhuru. Now he's doing that with Ruto. But every time he does that, he betrays everyone who was involved in the movement. I covered post-election violence in 2007, and the victims were never compensated. I heard Cyprian say the number was like 7,000 people died. but the government claims about 1,200 people died, but there was no compensation and there was no justice. And the difference between that time and this movement is that one of the things that people are saying in the streets is that we must have accountability, and we must have justice, and we must have reparations. So we must compensate the people who have been killed by the police, and we must get the killer cops to be arrested. On Tuesday, we're going back to the streets to demand Kwame to resign. But if you look at Raila Odinga, he has never demanded for those things. Every time he shakes hands and gets a deal, he doesn't talk about compensation for lives or justice for the victims. He moves on. He's a mercenary, actually, basically. That's what Raila has become over the years. So yesterday I was in a space with his son, and I told him, go and tell your father not to betray his grandkids. Because basically the guys in the streets are actually his grandkids. I can be Raila Odinga's son because I'm the same age with Raila Jr., but the people who are protesting and leading this protest are 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids. And they're saying, we got this. So I'm just telling the politicians, lay off these demonstrations and protests, let these people articulate their own issues. And the thing about dialogue, how do you go dialogue with politicians and it's the kids in the streets? And all they're asking for is the upholding of the Constitution. There's no new ask by these young kids. They're not saying that start new laws. No, they're saying the existing laws work. Implement the Constitution fully. That's where the fight is at. So our ask for everyone who is here and people who can talk to Raila Odinga and online and offline is tell him not to make this movement a barrier issue this weekend. Because what politicians do over the weekend, they go to churches and burials and try to set the agenda of the week. And what they're trying to do, when they do that, they're deflecting young people and make them keep off. Because the reason why they're in the streets, they're saying they're tribeless, they're partyless, and they're leaderless. But the moment someone's trying to insert themselves as their leader, you just spoil everything. So I think it is in bad taste for someone who's not in the streets, in this particular, the last 3 weeks, and people have died to come in and try to speak on their behalf. Those kids know what they want, and they're saying very eloquently and loudly, let them speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Cyprian, from your perspective, you've been at it for long. Perhaps how does the protesters keep the momentum as it is and to ensure they're not divided by the politicians? Because that can be a mechanism in which now they separate this.
Three things very quickly. The first thing is what Bonnie has spoken to. Be united around the issues, set the agenda, and what the Gen Zs have done is that they have published their agenda. That's the first thing you do if you want to remain united. That's very, very important, that the agenda is clear, you publish it, and you own it. They have even said that the leader is the issues. The issues are their leader. The second thing you do to keep a movement together is that you hold everybody accountable who is involved in the process and in the struggle. And the young people have managed to do things we were unable to do. I don't want to give you details, but let me tell you one story. In the year 2000, we were 1,500 of us here, and we only had 2 mobile phones, James Orengo and Munuve. And a priest, a reverend, I don't want to name him today, asked for Munuve's handset. He didn't know, don't name them. And he went out there to speak, but he did not know how to operate the mobile phone. But it was State House which was speaking to him. So when Munuve was given back his phone, he realized that it is State House which had been speaking to the convener of the meeting. That's why I didn't want to name him. And so you have to ensure that the infiltrators do not divide you. And that's why I'm really saying kudos to Gen Zs, because they have identified the infiltrators and they have ensured that they are flashing them out. That is extremely important. People should know, and what you've done, what they have done is really powerful, because they have even moved out of people's YouTube and whatever so that they pay the price. Which some of these things, we didn't have these things in our days. Finally, which is what I want to really speak to, the Gen Zs do not know how to deal with it. You are never going to go to the streets and you are not infiltrated physically. So in NCEC, in our struggles in NCEC, we established the self-defense teams, the self-defense forces around active nonviolence as the principle. So you need to train 500 to 1,000 young people who are responsible for shielding and protecting and identifying and recording to ensure that you are not infiltrated by people who are agent provocateurs who break people's shops and burn people's vehicles, and then it is blamed on you.
Thank you so much, Cyprian. Before I come to you, Dr. Njoki, I'm told we have Professor Kivutha Kibwana, former governor from... Yes, correct. So if we could have him, please, Professor, the floor is yours.
Hello?
Thank you so much, Prof. Please carry on.
Okay. First of all, I really want to, put my hat off for these young people, the Gen Zs, who have done something one can equal to the Mau Mau of the 50s, not even the NCA, NCC struggle of the 90s, and this is huge. And following mambo wanafanya kidogo kama mtafiti, I can see that they have realized that hii system ya ukoloni na ukoloni mamboleo mpaka ichenjiwe kutoka kwa roots. And I think that's the biggest thing that I have, seen from the struggles and from their work. Ndio tuwe na system mpya, which is an identical twin to the 2010 constitution. Na jinsi ilisemekana hapo awali, nafikiri ni Houghton, somebody said this, ni kazi ngumu na ni marathon, so that people don't think it's a quick fix. Na ndio nimesikia mkisema kwamba system ichenjiwe, personnel kabisa pia iwe ni personnel mpya na values mpya na norms mpya, alafu eternal accountability. Kila wakati muwe mnafuata. Na ndipo ninaweza kuuliza Law Society na wale wahusika wengine pamoja na Gen Zs wenyewe, ikiwa katiba inaweza kutranslatiwa hata even in those brief ways, kila lugha ya Kenya, na ndio najua kuna moja imetranslatiwa kwa Kiswahili, ndio iwe kwamba people now will learn the constitution. And you Gen Zs, please get into the wards, get into the rural areas, make sure that up to the ward and all those WhatsApps which are there in the rural areas, make sure that the message that you have gets there. And of course, this concretization of your demands, so that nobody, will be able to say, we don't know what they want, because no public decision without Gen Zs. So that those who are calling for dialogue, whatever it is, to be known that there should be no public decision without Gen Zs. I think that becomes very, very, very important. And the Occupy movement, my understanding of this movement from watching, listening, and so on, is you occupy any institution, you occupy any space, so that you get out the old ideas, the old values, and then you infuse new values within that particular movement. So it's symbolic, and that's why the artists, the comedians, and so on, the energy they are bringing and the innovation they are bringing in terms of really trying to change our country is very, very important. Because before, comedians were saying, these are just people who make others laugh. But this is like the beauty of the Gen Z movement is it is functional leadership. If there is a job to be done, there is people are told do that, and they do that. It is not the hierarchical thing that the system wants, so that they can pinpoint who are the leaders that we can buy, or who can we actually replace their leadership with the functional leadership, with our own leadership, people that we ask to be leaders, so that they can derail the movement. And so please continue with that complexity. I don't know, and also like the social justice centers, they should go to the informal settlements and make sure that these people are being confused to be goons, to be told that the fight is bigger than being given 500 bob or 1,000 bob every day to do, things that are not correct. If I was there was 2 minutes, I could read a poem I wrote in 2021 for young people of Africa, but I don't know whether there is that time, because I know that many people want to speak. But Law Society, please continue with this Citizens Assembly, because this is important, and all those ex-space bunges, they are very, very, very important for the future of our country. I don't know that I would have 2 minutes to read a poem which I wrote for young people. If there is, yes. If not, another time.
Do we have the 2 minutes, Director? Please carry on, Professor. If you can shorten them.
I can do so.
Please do so, but if you can put it more tightly because of time. Prof, can you hear me?
Okay, then let me read it. Yeah, I can hear you. What? Yes. Hello?
Please repeat, Prof. I couldn't hear you.
I was asking if I have 2 minutes to read a poem which I wrote in 2021 for the youth of Africa, Youth Seed.
Please go ahead. Prof, can you hear me?
Can I do so? Maybe somebody else? Yes, I can hear you now. Yes?
Yes, you can do so, please, kindly.
Okay. Youth Seed for the youth of Africa. If Africa is eclipsed by a dark continent, the sun to beam humankind's oasis of civilization is a swarming rays of youth. Some say Africa's youth is unschooled, restless, boisterous, uncouth high voltage. However, young people are the eternal reservoir for nourishing Africa's modernity. If the continent and our youth fail to enact a symbiotically binding social contract, we have entombed Africa alive. How many generations must we miscarry before we can procreate seminal life? In traditional Africa, when fire died from the earth, a child was sent to her neighbors to borrow fire. Mother Africa, you must dispatch your youth corps to retrieve fire from society's ashes so as to illuminate and warm Azania. The youth's essence are energy, inspiration, vitality, creativity, resilience, must never again be hijacked. Young persons must renounce the culture of youth for hire. Instead of degrading itself in wild orgies, youth must turn healer. Its spirit must soak Africa, become the miracle remedy of our cancers, union of Africa's body and soul. Youth must gather its talents. Youth must conserve its latent force. Youth must own itself. Youth must purify itself. Youth must organize. Youth must mobilize. The world is the youth to subdue. Youth must command the world. The tremor of young people's power, which will smash Africa's barren past, which will reassemble Africa's majesty, is rumbling. Listen, prepare, give way. Victory is as certain as sunshine. Africa must endearingly embrace our youth. Youth must draw Africa to its loving heart. Africa must palaver with our youth. Youth must make conversation with youth. Youth must dialogue with Africa and the world. Africa must befriend our youth. Youth must reinvent love. Youth must proclaim we must live love. Youth must transform itself worthy heir of Africa's struggle tradition during its pilgrimage to Africa's bosom. Africa's youth must open its eyes to survey the panorama of opportunity as it prepares to awaken the snoring, lethargic proverbial giant. Africa's renaissance is youth renaissance. Africa's youth, the future is here. The future is the present. The future is now. Just to finalize, because it's long, youth must birth our Africa. Always remember, sacrifice, pleasure, pain, blood, and joy are companions of every noble birth. Youth of Africa, your Africa is waiting. Don't keep our people slaves any longer. Unchain their mind. Let them be truly free at last. Africa and your youth, where is your redemption anthem? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for your perspectives there. Before we round up, I'd like to get closing remarks from Dr. Njoki, and then from Boni, and then Cyprian, and then Namwaya, correct. Do you think what the president has done is good enough in terms of ensuring there is accountability, even as he forms the next cabinet?
For me, as somebody who researches politics, and I have researched Kenyan politics for long, I do not think there's so much more that can be done. Remember, these are politicians, people, and now that's what I was telling people on Twitter. It's nice, yes, we all wanted, of course, they get rid of the cabinet, but where are they going? Have you checked how much money they're still going home with? Has anybody even, no, if it was serious, they would have been told tomorrow morning report to the commission that researches corrupt, I mean, what do you mean, the corruption? EACC, right? Nobody has been told to go to EACC and be investigated. So police reforms have not been done. For me, the first person to have been sacked should have been IG Kome and Adamson Bungei. Because, and police reforms, if there's a country that is desperate for police reforms, is Kenya. You know, and not just police reforms, the whole security sector reforms. In 2000, and after now, the new constitution, a lot of money was invested. Even the British, I know they were leading in security sector reforms. What did security sector reforms do in Kenya? They were bought new uniform. Those days they never used to have those swanky knee pads and I don't know, all those maroon things they're wearing to protect themselves. They never had them. They used to show up in just wearing their uniform. So police reforms just bought them more equipment to harass citizens, right? So till police reform is done, and until we get an IG who believes in human rights. Remember the police training. Many of you, if you've ever talked to any police officer, they'll tell you, the first thing they are told, Rayani adui yako. Can you imagine? Rayani adui. And then when they are being trained there in Keganjo or in the GSU and Bakassi or wherever, they are given very also torturous and inhumane treatment in the training, and they are told, tunafanya hivi ili tutoe uraia ndani yako. Can you imagine? So how do you expect such a person to protect your rights, right? That's why, even the other day I was in a government building and I had to talk to the police officer. And I'm so, you know, these days I'm just so pissed off even seeing them. And one of them, I asked them, but why did you people kill our young people? He said, tutaua hata zaidi. The arrogance. So it is, and I was asking them, were you trained like that? You know, where does this thinking come from? So till we get a security sector that is reformed, and security sector is a long path, but the most visible is the police. IPOA, you can hear we have problems. Inside the police, there's usually also an internal unit for investigating police human rights violations police course. And according to sources, because I've met some of those people, they'll tell you the current IG doesn't like human rights at all. So if there's a unit that has been frustrated, and maybe even that's why IPOA is behaving that way, it's because of the frustration at the person at the top. Remember also we are dealing with a president who has never been on the right side of human rights, ever. You know, everything he does is cosmetic. You know, and hata kama inaitwa nini, even if a chameleon changes the color, the DNA remains. So till we get a president who respects human rights, because as I said, if Chapter 4 of the Constitution, which is a Bill of Rights, is not respected, we cannot enjoy any other right. Those are the first degree human rights. And that's, you know, what we are saying, the freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. And that's why young people are all trying to go to Europe, because there, you know, I can protest every day. If you go to France, Paris, even they have an, you know, the name for being on the strike is Manifestation. French people in Paris, even every day there's a strike. Every day they are on the road. They are what do you call it? They are protesting. How many French people have been killed? Or have you heard about the killings? Only one, which was like 3 years ago. If you check even now on the internet, the French are always on the street. That's the country we want, a human rights state, a country where everybody's rights are respected, that you can wake up, you can go and protest like Rex Masai did, like Bisley Kogi, like David Shege, and you still go home and you feel that that's what we want. So for me, 3 things have to happen. Police reform. And so all, even now, if that hashtag of, what do you call it, Kome must go, Bungei must go, has to join Ruto must go. We have a problem because the president has never believed in human rights, and that's the biggest problem. So when we have somebody at the top who doesn't believe in human rights, who doesn't believe in the Constitution, because people can say a lot of rhetoric, look at the history. The history betrays them. So maybe they can change. I'm not saying they might not change. Hopefully, this generation, this third revolution, it's not actually a revolution. A revolution would need radical change of everything, like, you know, the French Revolution and others. But I hope we can have radical changes. We must, of course, I celebrate Gen Z. I celebrate millennials. Bonnie and I and many others, we are millennials. Gen X, these are our colleagues. So also this idea of exceptionalizing Gen Z is good, but remember all of us have been involved in this, and it's been a journey. This should actually be Okoa Kenya or Liberate Kenya movement, because all of us, we are tired and we want to liberate our country. This is the only country we have. I lived in the UK for 10 years. I came back because we want to change our country. So, and hatuendi pahali pengine, ni hapa tu. We are going to make this country those countries that we want, where human rights are respected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Otieno, coming to you. From your insights, clearly, IPOA has failed. How do we now ensure that even as an oversight body remains accountable to Kenyans in light of police brutality? Very few remarks.
I think the failure of IPOA should be seen or looked at in the broader context of the failure of the many accountability institutions that we created under the 2010 Constitution. IPOA was just one of them, and IPOA was to do the actual investigation and prosecution. But there was also the National Police Service Commission, and I think internally there was the Internal Police Affairs Unit, and then there is the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, which is supposed to, actually its decisions are usually supposed to be at the level of the High Court. They can hold public inquests and pass decisions. So the problem is that I think we moved our feet on the pedal a bit, and the state took over, and these institutions have systematically been weakened, so we need to start reclaiming them, their independence. We need IPOA to work independently. We need the police to be able to be allowed to work independently without political interference.
we need a National Police Service Commission to do what it was meant to do, because the law was changed and then they became something else. And we need all these institutions to be brought back to what they were initially supposed to be. Otherwise, without institutions working, look at Parliament, what's happening. It's just part of a deliberate attempt to weaken the institutions and recreate an imperial state that people fought against in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 70s. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bonnie, as we wind up, what are your closing remarks? And possibly when we look at governance, of course, there are many arms of government that are there and other institutions. From the role of judiciary, we've not had them coming out and even commenting in terms of what has been happening. As you close, what would you want maybe the judiciary to be very keen on, especially given the police brutality and what we've been seeing?
Wow. I don't think there's a police officer in jail for killing a peaceful protester. They rarely do that. I think one of the things that we blame the judiciary on is that they are independent, but they do not have the courage to jail big perpetrators. We look at Governor Obado and the case about Sharon that happened about 6-7 years ago. And a murder happened, but the man is still walking scot-free. And the same man has another case in court about corruption. So if the man is actually a repeat offender, he shouldn't even have bail. So you realize that sometimes the judiciary says you're innocent until proven guilty, right? But in this country, you're guilty until proven rich, because rich people do not get the same laws that apply to poor people. My closing remarks is actually that if we could get people to do their work that they're paid to do, Kenya would be very, very far. Whether it's Koome in her role as the Chief Justice and the magistrate under her, the people in the police service, the people who work for the executive. The problem we have is that this country is run by one person, that's the president, and he calls the shots. So you find that a body like Parliament is not independent. It's a rubber stamp for the executive. That's why when they passed the bill, they took it to State House to go, you passed your finance bill, it's here. And we need to teach those people who do that a lesson. The beauty of the past 3 weeks is because now we've taken back the power, we're going to set the rules and the tone on how they behave. So right now we're in control. So you can be able to say, these are expectations. I think the judiciary should be able to come and say, we're going to have, they actually have special courts on economic crimes. But can you have a case listened to and conclude within a year or 6 months? You have to realize the people who steal a lot of money are very powerful. Mm-hmm. And they learned something from Patney. Patney was able to buy the entire judiciary and the entire opposition when he stole Goldenberg. And by doing that, he made it easier for people who steal later on to steal enough to bribe everyone. I was just looking up about Anglo-Listen because of the killings in Mukuru, because Kenya doesn't have a proper forensic lab. But 22 years ago, would have bought one with Anglo-Listen money. Anglo-Listen money was stolen. The thieves were never convicted, but guess who was found guilty for defamation? John Githongo, the whistleblower. So you see how injustice the justice system is. So my prayer is, as we reform this country, we get men and women of integrity like our President Faith Odhiambo, who you can believe in and stand and say that if she's in that position, you're safe. And it's very, very important. So the Kenya we want, power. So the Kenya we want, as I conclude, I want the Kenya we want to have the Kenyans we want in that Kenya. Kenyans who believe in integrity and who stand up for their rights. We are standing up for our rights. May we never sit down, ever.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Cyprian, as you wind up, what are your closing remarks looking at issues to do with governance? Because it doesn't end with the president. It also trickled down to our counties.
Thank you very much. I want to say that there are 4 things that the Gen Z Occupy movement wants changed in Kenya. They are saying that Kenya has lost trust in institutions, transparency has collapsed, and accountability. Number 3 is that discipline has gone, and finally respect has evaporated. Those are the 4 problems that the Gen Z movement and the Occupy movement has identified. They are not just about the presidency, but you've seen the occupation even of churches. Nobody's going to be spared. What do we do going forward? The sacking and the dissolution of the cabinet by President William Ruto is not enough. It is one of the 6 things that must be done. And just allow me to say what the 6 things are that Ruto must do before we can go back to the budget and the finance bill. The first thing was to sack cabinet. The second thing is that he must overhaul, change the leadership of parliament. There's even a court case I've seen to dissolve parliament because it is not constitutionally constituted. Number 3 is that we, and I hope Faith can hear me on this, Faith, we must establish a judicial commission of inquiry that tells us what happened during the peaceful protests. Who killed the protesters? Who burned police vehicles? Who torched the county government offices from Embu to Nairobi to Kikuyu assemblies all over the country? A judicial commission of inquiry is a must. Number 4 is that all the security chiefs, Koome, Bungei, but we are not talking about the Director General of DCI. That is the man who's killing our people. That's the man who is abducting our people, Amin. Why are people not talking about Amin? You were at Amin's office. He told you that he is not the one abducting, but he does not know who's abducting. So he must, that's number 4, and it's extremely important. Number 5 is that the military must be removed from the streets by going back to parliament and rescinding the instrument that brought them to the street. Number 6 is that we must be allowed to recall all the members of parliament who said yes. They must be recalled. They must be recalled. After we do those 6 things, the list of 14 irreducible minimums will kick in. Number 1 is that CDF must go. We are saying that we must close down all the offices that are chewing up our money. The Appropriations Act, the budget which Ruto passed into law, must be completely dissolved. We have rejected the finance bill, but we allowed him to pass his appropriations. So he is not worried. He has money and he has been allowed to spend. So he's not having problems. We must deal with the Appropriations Act. So going forward, the pressure must not be reduced. The pressure must be increased until everything is achieved that is on the list of the things that Ruto must do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my panelists. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. There is another set of panel.
And Minocha has kept saying women. So many women, during the first week of the riots, you saw how many women came out, and young women, and it's sad that they've gone behind so in many revolutions or springs, after a revolution, women are put behind and then men lead. So we must not allow that. There's some discussion I'm seeing on Twitter, let's get rid of women reps. We have a quality problem for men and for women. It's not unique to women, right? We have a serious quality problem. Of course, if most of the KK members of parliament, it was business partners, people who invested in KK, even I'm sure some of the Azimio, but KK is where we have really problematic members of parliament. So it is not, it's a quality problem for men and women. And please stop singling women out as they were not, we just have a bad parliament. And it is now for us, many of us, don't forget, run for politics. Yes. Politics, if it's 2027 or it's after we recall them, don't just sit there as you do the activism, you also register yourself, get into we need a political party of this movement. Because without that, those are the instruments of getting into power. We will just be talking and then so we need all these activists, and let's own that activism and take that. Can you imagine if we all went into government? We would change everything. So the pressure must not stop. That's what I would like to say.
A round of applause. Thank you so much for sharing your insights there. Asante sana. Thank you so much. DJ, as we transit, a little bit of music. I'm being told we are getting into another round with a list of panelists as well. So you can leave the stage. Thank you so much. We have Tess Wavinya from... Yeah. On this round, we have Tess Wavinya from LSK Council. Please take the stage.
We have a youth bomb that, if not properly handled, can be a time bomb that can blow this country.
Is Tess in the house? Thank you so much. And then we have Joshua Okayo. He is one of the victims that were abducted, and he is a student leader from Kenya School of Law. Please take a seat. To make the conversations more interesting, we have Commissioner Fatima Mohammed from IPOA. Thank you, ma'am. Please. And lastly, we have Diana Gishengo from Okoa Uchumi. Kindly, if we could have you on stage. So on this session, we're just going to look at what next for the victims. What are some of the legal instruments there is for them to institute so that they can be able to get reparations for some of the atrocities that were meted on them. So thank you so much. Do we have Diana? Diana, please, if we may have you. Thank you so much. So we'll begin from Joshua, just from a victim perspective, having gone through the ordeal. What do you think will justify some of the atrocities that were meted against you?
Thank you. Nothing will justify the atrocities meted against me. And all those other people, the young people who were abducted, some of whom have since been found alive, but others who have been sadly found dead. Nothing justifies such actions. So yeah, nothing.
Okay. What are your first actions that you would like to get out of the way if you had that opportunity to institute legal actions?
Mm-hmm. Really, I know I have the opportunity to institute legal actions. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank the Law Society of Kenya, LSK, under the leadership of Faith, President. You know, so many advocates have come forward to help, to support, and they are passionately seeking justice for myself and all those others who've gone through what I went through, maybe worse. And yeah, number one is we need to institute legal charges against individuals who are controlling the police force, those who are controlling the NIS, the DCI, Director General. I had Mr. Nyamwamu talking about the same. And after that, the victims also need to be compensated for all that they've gone through. Mm-hmm. And all that is going to be done in due course. I want to assure you that the team, the legal team at the LSK and all other well-wishers are up to speed, and this is what we would like to see happen. Number one, criminal charges against individuals. Number two, civil charges against, civil, civil matters against the government and those involved, so that then we don't just see them serving sentences, if at all they will. I hope they do. But then ultimately, we also get to get back to our previous state of physical and mental state.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Tess, moving to you. As a body, LSK, are you looking forward to possibly institute legal actions? And what are some of the support that you're already giving to these particular victims of police brutality? Because there was issues of psychological trauma, especially for the victims that underwent the brutality. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, allow me first to state that in our country, we have the Constitution. And in the Constitution, it gives guidelines on how the government is supposed to work from the powers that has been delegated by the people. They do not have the sovereign powers. And it's also from there that such bodies like LSK are formed to keep checks and balance to the government. Now, as you've asked me, what are the measures that have been taken? As LSK, our first mandate is to uphold the rule of law. When you're upholding the rule of law, we're reminding the government, the current regime, which is trying to do and act on its draconian acts, that justice is our shield and defender. And it is not a cloistered virtue. And that's why we called upon our young members to go on the streets, pro bono, to live billable hours, so that we help those whom were peacefully assembling to protest and they were arrested, abducted, and taken to police station or detained in places we don't know. We do not have the much capacity to take them to psychological places, but we've been able to partner with other people, with NGOs, with human rights organizations, with psychiatrical facilities, so that we be able to enable them to get such help. Because we are not in normal times anymore. We are in abnormalities. Someone goes to the street to protest, they don't go home, their families are scared, they don't even know where their child has gone to. When you call the phone, no one answers. A good example, the KSL student seated on my left. We got information of where he was found in Moranga. I was the key person to get that information. And it was so unfortunate that he couldn't even comprehend or even want to speak. So it's only God who knows what he went through. And this government does not even care about that. So the measures that you're taking as LSK is you're reminding the government to uphold the rule of law, because justice is not negotiable. Stop abducting people. Why are you hiding them? If you're doing the right thing, you will not be abducting us. You will not be hiding us. You will not be detaining us. You will not be killing us like Denzel. So we are calling upon all wishers, especially these organizations that has such facilities. We've been able to partner with several that are helping them to go through that trauma process so that they may try to get rid out of it. But as we all know, trauma does not end. Something can trigger it at any moment. But our president does not care. He thinks he runs Kenya, and Kenya is not his. We need to remind him, as a Kenyan, he needs to ask himself, what are you doing for your country? And not what the country will do for you. And he's destroying our country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess, for that. Commissioner Fatima Mohammed, thank you so much for joining this panel. Previously, from our discussions, one of the panelists actually pointed out that IPOA is failing on its job to do its mandate, that is to oversight. From your perspective, in light to the protest that has happened, what is IPOA doing?
Thank you very much, and for giving us this opportunity to come and highlight exactly what we are doing. First, we have to understand the mandate of IPOA. The mandate of IPOA is to oversight the police in holding it accountable into doing its work. Two, and to ensure professionalism in police work. and to handle how to handle complaints independently. That's a clear mandate of IPOA. What are our functions? One is to investigate police killings and police causing serious injuries. And that's where we are at this particular time. And for these cases that now we have, since the protests have started, I just want to speak about that one right now. That's what is at stake right now, is we're in the process of investigating and recommending to the DPP. One, it's a legal process. And once it's a legal process, you'll need evidence, you'll need statements, because when you send it to the DPP, what will he ask you for? He'll ask for all the evidence, for him to take it to court for it to be sustained. Already we are asking for people to come forward, give us statements, so that when we go to the DPP, he has something to take to the courts. Otherwise, if we take things that we just pick from the social media here and there, it doesn't help us. We really appreciate you coming to us. If you'd come to us, we record statements. Then, you know, that will give us basis for our prosecution, because we don't have powers for prosecution. We don't have powers to arrest. I know we've been asked, how come you are not arresting the police officers? We don't have the powers to arrest. Ours is to give recommendation and give disciplinary cases to the National Police Service Commission to either discipline that police officer or to do that, or whatever issue that needs to be done. But as it stands right now, we are very advanced in many of our investigations. But what we are lacking is the crucial evidences that we need for prosecution. The DPP, we work together every single day, and is always asking, where is the stage, at what stage have you reached here? Now that is where we are. And we'd be asking kindly if we could have evidence from the public. Come to us. Talk to us, record statements with us. Then we can have a credible case to hand. Otherwise, what we are getting, social media from here and there, we go out of our own motion, because we have the powers out of our own motion to go out and investigate and call upon you, come, this is what you have said, get it done, let's do this, let's do that. It's not able to happen. So with the basis of that, we are not able to move forward. Yeah.
Before I come to you, Diana, sticking to Commissioner Fatma, yes, do you have mechanisms where you actually ensure that those that come forward are actually protected? Yes. Because with issues to do with abduction, I mean, the trust that is there can be actually very little.
We really try as much as possible to hide the identity of the staff or whoever witnesses we have. Unfortunately, we have the issue of witness protection. Now we have to liaise with the Witness Protection Agency. That's another agency we have to cooperate with, because it reaches a stage that one of our many challenges we have is resources. Even for protection of witnesses. Well, we try whichever cases we have. We have prosecuted quite a number of cases from the police and got quite a number of convictions. But as at now, that is what we really need. And coming here, I said now this is the right forum to come and make appeal to the public and tell them that for us to move forward, we need evidence. We need, of course, we know, we have seen what we have seen on the clips, and somebody's asking me, what more evidence do you need? You have seen the clips, but is that admissible in court?
Diana, picking up from what Commissioner Fatma has just finished off saying, do you think there is enough evidence actually for IPOA to institute investigations against the police brutality? And what do you think?
Thank you very much. I know I came as Okoa Uchumbi to work on finance, but IPOA, and I've come after member, right? Member. In IPOA, it is members. The Independent Police Oversight Authority has no commissioners. It has members. And it was a very deliberate thing in the language. It was very different from Article 59 commissions. It was Independent Police Oversight Authority. It had independent members. In the last composition of the membership, they declined government vehicles because of how much they needed to be impartial. According to the Act, they have powers to first and foremost monitor, not investigate, monitor. So as Gen Zs and Kenyans are reporting about incidences of police brutality, IPOA has a legal mandate to monitor. We ought to have seen their statements before anybody else. They have full powers to investigate and move straight into a judicial inquest. Where is the inquest so far? Bodies are lying in mortuaries with police bullets. What else do you need? What else do you need? People are shot broadly and recorded on video. Journalists, local and international ones, ask, give us the video. They are given. IPOA, what do you want? Aren't you complacent in this particular situation? I think at this particular moment, not just IPOA, all independent bodies must know they act on behalf of the people, not the president. The hesitation we are seeing is because of the co-option of IPOA by the executive. Trying to please NPS. You do not refer cases to NPS. You make final recommendations. Come to us to help you. We the people. You have seen we are powerful. To help you enforce your findings. I wish IPOA was here in the morning when we had narrations of people who can't sleep because they were tortured, leave alone the ones who are dead. We are here speaking, we don't know whether we'll be tortured again. Even within the police service, they are willing to speak because they are our children. There are very many people who are looking for their children. Bodies have been found in Mukuru. These are trends. By the time the president says there are no extrajudicial execution, we expect IPOA to give us trends. Pole Mami, and we hear you. I hope those tears, IPOA, you use our taxes. It must change.
Thank you so much, Diana. Coming on from a law perspective, you want to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I mean, I understand and I feel the pain. True. But what we need is, you have said it here, come to our offices. Let's record these things in our offices. Let's do it in the legal manner. We cannot prosecute in the public prosecution, you know, in the public space. We need it done in the right manner. And that's the only way. Diana, and I feel what you're telling us completely. Come to our offices. Let's work together like that. Let's have even witness protecting in all our ways how we can handle this matter. We feel the pain, and we know no one is immune in this process. Today I'm in IPOA, tomorrow I am not. Our children are all outside there, all of them. So we cannot say this is one issue that we can ignore. We cannot. We need help. We need all kind of evidence that we can have, so we can push this issue forward. We are all together in this. There's no way that I'm saying that it doesn't happen to anybody. It's all of us inside this thing. And nobody is going to say that we are safe from it. So what we really need, let's come together, let's work together, let's push this agenda forward. We have shortage of resources in our IPOA. We are overstretched. We cannot be in every sector, but if we partner with social justice centers, if we justice with everything else, we'll be able to move forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Fatma. Coming back to Tess, if I may have your attention, Diana mentioned an inquest, and there is the issue of reparations. Is it enough for people that were tortured and even experienced the impact and the effect of the protest to get justice? Is it enough?
Thank you very much. It is not enough because it is not being done. If I may retaliate, the mission of IPOA to conduct impartial and independent investigations, inspections, audits, and monitoring of the National Police Service to prevent impunity and enhance professionalism in the interest of the public. We the people, the sovereign of this country is we the people. When that inquest was supposed to be done, they are not doing it. They are telling us to go to their offices. We are in an era of social media. We are not in 1972, where when someone is brutally killed, abducted by the police, it cannot be seen out there. Bodies are being found everywhere. Today, bodies have been found at Mukurwa. Are they investigating? Are they acting suo motu? Yet it is an independent body that can act suo motu to process those inquests. Are they doing that? She's saying that they don't have the budget. Have they come to the Mwananchi to tell us that? Are they waiting that when we need them, it's when they come and tell us that failure? Why are they not doing what they're supposed to do? It is not enough until it is done.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Joshua, coming to you, you are a victim. What support do you need, not only you, but also from your family, because they experience the whole ordeal even as you get abducted? What do you think are the initial supports that you need, you and your immediate family members?
Thank you. I think before I get to the question as to what support I need, myself as an individual and the family, let me speak to this issue just a little bit. A few days before we got to Thursday, the second biggest protest, so many MPs in Parliament were saying that these are photoshopped, photos have been photoshopped, and these are not real figures, these are not real protesters. These are just, young people young children. They were actually calling us kids from middle-class families who, with Uber and iPhones and everything, until they saw the real deal on Tuesday, the 25th of June. So there's that illusion at IPOA. They're still imagining that these abductions are not real. They're still imagining that, these people go missing and then they are found dead or some found tortured. These are just jokes, all right? Even with the bullets in people's bodies, they still think this is a joke. Or they think there's a special group of people somewhere that are not the police or that are not being, patronized by the government that are doing these killings. So the IPOA live or they are working, I don't know whether they're working really, under an illusion that these are false abductions, these are false killings, and probably I think in their heads they think no one has been killed so far by the police. Because they want the victims, all right, to present evidence. They want the victims to come and report. How can a dead person come and report at IPOA? How can a dead person actually come to you to report? Today I've seen they've given about 14 names. I've seen the post they made about 14 names calling us to, I think I was one of them, to go and report at IPOA. Did you even mind that maybe some of us are not walking? I remember the first day I could not walk. When I was picked, I could not walk. I could not speak. All right? Or are you going to wait until all of us are fine, can speak, can walk, so that you start when everything is all cool and now you can hide behind all that calmness? I think it's time we just call them out. And all of them should go out, should go home. Now, as to the support, and I don't want to speak just for myself. I am very alive to the fact that most of the abductees have not come out to speak, which I understand. I also have a right. I should have been resting somewhere on the bed and trying to, to heal. Right now, someone is hugging me here, and someone can't hug you because your body is not yours. But I'm coming out because I know if no one is going to speak to this issue, then we shall be sanitizing the government by our inactions. So then it is just important that we speak. That is why some of us are coming out to speak. Not that we are okay, not that we are fine, not that we are fully healed. We are not. But because we want this in the heat of passion, when still we understand the importance of all these slogans we've been chanting, we have to come out. I am under the care of 2 people currently. And every once in a while they come to check on me. Sometimes I shout in the night. Something I've never done before. I don't know whether I used to do, but people who used to be close to me never told me that I used to shout in the night. The very first day when I slept, well, I couldn't catch sleep, but when I went to sleep, I fought someone who was sleeping next to me. Just woke up and fought. I didn't know this was happening. They reported to me the following day. I've had serious issues of sleeping. Sometimes I just zone out. All right? So, number one is we need to be supported psychosocially. We need to, of course, I've started conversations with some counseling psychologists, but I don't think all the abductees have a pleasure of getting such people. So it is important that this is brought to the attention of everyone else, that we need to be supported by counselors, counseling psychologists, psychiatrists, and everyone else who can support us mentally. Those of us who've incurred charges in hospitals, I remember the first day when I went to the hospital, we had some charges that we incurred. And afterwards, I've been going to the hospital. I've gone to the hospital like 4 times now. Every time going for reviews, every time going for checkup. And my left arm is still not functioning. Why? Because I don't know really why, but they can't find what's up with my arm, especially the upper part of my left arm. So such things, you don't really know what's happening. Maybe we are going to the hospitals where they can't get to know what's up. If we could just afford to go to a better hospital, all right, where such things can be checked, where such scans can be taken, so that we get to understand what's happening. Some of these people will be coming forward, and you may think they are okay, they are walking, they are okay, but deep down in their bodies, they have some injuries that they cannot show you. Also, I think it's just in order that the mental torture that we've gone through, and this is not a burden I'm going to put to the general public. This is a burden I'm going to put to those who are behind the abductions and killings. May we be compensated.
Thank you, Joshua. Diana, coming to you, one of the things that I picked from Joshua is the fact that a lot of the victims are yet to come out and share their experience. And it's my belief, one of the many ways in which people begin to actually comprehend what happened to them and even begin maybe the process of healing is actually by talking. As an organization, and even as you join in the conversation, how do you think we can be able to bring out the victims to actually now share their own first account just as a way of getting that healing?
I think this forum, after this forum, we are going to see many more people speak. Because one, my experience with all these processes of extreme violence, torture over the years is people self-alienate immediately. You can't believe what happened to you. And most of the time, remember, most of them were abducted and they were blindfolded. You felt so alone. So you want to stay there. But listening to one account, so for the victims who've come today and shared their account, they have opened the door for many more to start speaking. But we will organize as many sessions of solidarity, of counseling, of listening to every victim wherever they are. And allow me to acknowledge, I don't know your name, Mami, but we feel your pain. Tabitha, We feel your pain. Tabitha clearly is looking for her child, who has been missing and took part in the peaceful protest. You can see her pain. There are very many parents whose children are missing. They don't know where to search, but you can't silence a mother who does not know where their child is. So the more we keep speaking and spotlighting these stories, we will create avenues for that. And I'm aware the social justice working group, police reform working group are creating all these spaces, and we hope we can reach out to the professional counselors group to take on this particular issue. But allow me to urge the member from IPOA. The act is very clear. IPOA acts first on its own motion. Secondly, when a complaint is filed. Please read the mood. Read the mood of the country. It is time to act on your own motion. IPOA has expansive powers to take over any investigations around the service. They have powers to summon the IG, summon Bungei. How many bullets did you shoot? Give us the records. You have more privilege and power than any victim will ever have. And please do not go to another space and tell us to come to your office. We are taking victims to counseling rooms. We are taking them to hospitals. We can't be taking them to IPOA as well. Please, IPOA in the past, particularly during the 2017 violence in Nairobi, in Migori, in Kisumu, gave us daily updates. Gave us daily updates of police killings, of people who are missing, of enforced disappearances. We relied on their data to infer the trends. Surely, budgets may have been slashed, technology has grown. Organizations working in this sector, including the Law Society, they have data. Reach out, cooperate. Please, you have a place in ensuring that women like Tabitha get justice and their burden is lighter. Allow me to pause there. My
Thank
world
you.
is the budget.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that. If you may pick up the microphone, Commissioner Fatma, kindly, whatever Diana has brought out, you may answer as you put forward your closing remarks. The mic, kindly, the mic is not on.
Thank you, Diana. I've
Thank
heard you
you.
very clearly, and the mood of the public we have had loud and clear. And we are working towards ensuring that all what we are asking is patience. And for true, I know time is not there. You're saying, no, there's no time, but time is there. Because at the end of the day, what do we want to achieve? We want to achieve justice. We want to achieve the person who is responsible, even if it's going to be the IG, and definitely it will be the IG who will be held accountable. That's a must. It will take place. Maybe it might not take place today, but it will. That is want to assure the public that we conduct very credible investigation, watertight. We want when you take to the DPP, he doesn't return it back to us. He doesn't say, oh, go fill this gap, go fill this gap. We will come to your spaces. Please open up to us. When we come looking for you, don't hide yourself. Don't say, no, I'm not going to take. And we want to assure you very clearly that for sure, we will protect your identities in terms of witnesses. I know you're saying victims are dead, they can't speak, but they have relatives. They have, and we don't want to have dead people, to be honest. We are looking for a process that we all inclusive. You all support IPOA. IPOA needs the public support. in terms of getting funding, in terms of getting all the issues that are needed for us to ensure that justice is served. It will be served. Daily updates, we find like that if you release everyday statements, people will like, this is too much now. But we give you, since these protests have started, we have been releasing quarterly. I mean, every other week we've been saying, these are the number of cases we have. Up to our record, we have up to 39 dead. There could be more. We're asking for more space, for more information. We will come to you. If you feel that you cannot come to our office, Diana, we are ready to come to your to the social justice centers. We have our working MOU with LSK, very clear. We have signed one, so that we can cooperate. We are looking for cooperation with members of the public. We are looking with cooperation for any institution, civil society. We have gone to Bunge ourselves, asking for more funds, more powers, because we are very limited. You're saying we have powers, yes, but it's up to a certain limit. We hand over the files to National Police Service Commission for disciplinary. We hand over the files to the Director of Public Prosecution to prosecute. Then he's the one to take it to the judges. But if we can have it ourselves, those prosecutorial powers, you will tell me, okay, what else are you reading for? You go direct to the judges. Judicial inquest of inquiry, we've asked for it from the time of the Riviera bodies that happened. We have not kept quiet, and we are not sleeping on the job. What we need is cooperation from the public. We want patience from the public. I know you'd want answers immediately. You want us to arrest so-and-so. We have no powers to arrest, but we are asking for every information. We write to the IG on a daily basis to ask to give us, like when we are monitoring, when we say we monitor police operations, we monitor and investigate police operations. And when you monitor the operations, you ask them to give us the deployment. Who was on that street? Who was on the deployment for the officers that were taking in that process on that day? So those are the things we are looking for. Here we're asking to come to us. We also have a psychosocial support system that can help, because we all need it ourselves. Even hearing from you now, myself, I think I also need counseling, because it's too much to bear. And we're all in this together. I'm sure today when we go home, we'll all feel and say, and you're not alone. You are all in this together. So that's my closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Fatma, Commissioner Fatma. As you take up the mic, Tess, kindly give us your closing remarks, and picking off from what Commissioner has said, they are looking for cooperation, they are looking for information.
Thank you very much. In the public eye, the last time we had faith in IPOA, as she has mentioned, was 2017 and 2018. If IPOA wants to redeem itself, she is saying that they give us weekly updates. Why don't you give us daily updates? These killings are being done every day. These abductions are happening hour per hour, not weekly. If you want to redeem your image to the public, remember you are acting on behalf of the public from the delegated power we gave you as we the people. Give us those daily updates. We do not wish to see updates tomorrow on Twitter, the IPOA Twitter handle saying we could not trace Ogunda to record a statement. You can find Ogunda. You can find those abductees. Yes, we do have an MOU with LSK, but have they written to us to help them to get the information on the ground? No. So if IPOA wants to redeem itself, please take up the mantle. Do your work independently as per the powers you've been given by the people of the Republic of Kenya through the IPOA Act. Go on the ground, investigate, get to know. And I'm sure once we start seeing you on the ground, we will willingly come, restore your image, and we will willingly cooperate, because we want, as we are saying, we do not want dialogue. We want action. We are tired of dialogue. We want action. If we start seeing action tomorrow, all of us will flock at IPOA's office. All of us, myself included, because we have been victims as well. We've been followed by plainclothes police. We don't even know who they are. But if I go and nothing is being done, so that is what we are asking. Just do the work, and as Kenyans, we will cooperate. My final submissions. I'm speaking as an advocate and also as a member of the Republic of Kenya. And as we want to ask Dr. Ruto, the president, as you go to bed tonight, remember the words of J.F. Kennedy. It is not about what your country will do for you. It is about what you will do for your country. And realize what the people of the Kenya are saying is what we want it done. It is not about you, it is about the people of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess. Before we come to you, Joshua, for your closing remarks, I'm meant to understand there are some burning questions from the audience. If we could get brief questions, briefly state who you are and your question, and then we could get the ball rolling. And to whom is that particular question directed to? So, yes, Mama, let's begin with you.
Okay. Majina zangu naitwa Tabitha Wanjiru Kailo. I'm looking for my son. Sijui kwenye yako. Simu imekuwa mteja from date 18. That's the last time we talked to him. Na juu ya hii mambo iko, I was calling kumwambia kuongea kuhusu maandamano. Na ndio nikapata mtoto wangu hayuko ako mteja. From that time nimekuwa nikizunguka. Nimeenda hospitali zote zenye ziko around, alikuwa na Kamweki. Nimeenda hospitali zote, nimeenda mortuary, nimeenda police station. Na to make the matter worse, ile kitu inaniuma, nimereport. Na nimereport Kasarani police station. Hakuna usaidizi yoyote unapewa. As a Kenyan, nafaa kufanya nini? Kama mzazi wa Mwangi, nafaa kufanya nini mimi? Cause ile kitu nafaa kufuata, ile njia nafaa kufuata ya kwenda kureport a missing child umefanya. Unaenda unapata police amekaa na unamwambia mtoto wako amekosekana for this time na umereport na hakuna kitu anakusaidia nayo. Anakuambia kuna data inafaa kutoka kwa Safaricom. You never know. Haujai kuwa in that scene again. Hujui utaenda wapi, hujui utaanza wapi, hujui utamalizia wapi. You can imagine hizo masiku zote unalala, unaamuka, unaenda kutafuta mtoto wako. Unaenda hospitali, unaenda mpaka unaanza kuamsha wale watu wenye wako wamelala wamejifunika. Uone kama mtoto wako alipatwa na shida yote ama aliumia kwa maandamano, ako kwa hospitali. You can imagine venye tunaenda through. Familia, kila mtu ako kwa pande yake, ingine pande yake akitafuta mtoto. Na kuna government. Kuna ile kitu unafaa kufuata. Kuna wale watu wanafaa kutafuta missing person. Kuna data, kuna technology. How can sasa utaenda ukitafuta, unaenda ukiangalia everybody. Uangalia kama huyo ni mtoto wako. Utafanya nini? Ukienda kwa police station anakuangalia hakushughulikii, unatafuta njia zenye anaweza kukusaidia nazo, anakuambia hana gari ya kwenda sijui kuangalia nini, utoe sasa ni utafute pesa umpe. What is this? Kenya, makosa yetu ni nini? Makosa yangu kama mama ni nini? Makosa ya mtoto wangu ni nini? Ni kuwa tu Mkenya. Nini alifanya mbaya? Kutokelezea kwa barabara kama alikuwa ametokelezea kwa barabara. Alifanya makosa gani? Na ni light yake. Ukiona mahali unafinyika as a Kenyan, kuna light ya kuandamana. Mimi Joseph Mwangi Kailo, mimi mzazi, kwa nini napitishiwa uchungu kama huyo nikiwa mzazi? Tukiwa familia, kwa nini tunapitishiwa uchungu kama hiyo? Kwa nini? Sisi tunafaa kuwa tumesaidiwa. My question is, na zizo na direct to wakubwa wa Kenya hii. Kama ni mtoto wa Ruto angekuwa amepotea, all those days angekuwa saizi amepatikana. Juu kuna venye data zenye zinafaa kutumiwa apatikane. Lakini juu ni mtoto wa maskini, na lakini ni maskini Mkenya, ama Kenyan by niko na national ID ya Kenya. Mtoto wangu ako national ID ya Kenya. Cause yeye ni mtoto wa Kenya, anafaa kutafutwa kama venye wa Ruto anafaa kutafutwa. Kama wale wakubwa wengine, mtoto wangu anafaa kutafutwa in the same venye anafaa kutafutwa. Hakuna Mkenya mdogo, hakuna Mkenya mkubwa. Juu maisha ni maisha. Mimi mtoto wa Ruto hawezi kuwa mtoto wangu. Mwangi wangu hawezi kuwa wa Ruto. So I'm looking for justice for my son. Nitafutiwe mtoto wangu, nipewe mtoto wangu, nipewe mtoto wangu. Hiyo ndio uchungu yenye niko nayo kama mama.
Thank you so much, Tabitha. There she is seeking, of course, her son Mwangi. And of course, from LSK, would like you to answer where she would get help, and from IPOA, if you could. But let's take a round of other questions. Yes, the guy there next. Please make it brief.
Good afternoon. I'm Edwin Deda from Kibra, and I want to go on record as the person who rescued Frank Okoth, who was feared dead. And I participated in the demos as a person with disabilities for reasons known to me. My question to IPOA, this young man, as we talk, though he's in a quite stable condition, he still has wounds of 6 bullets. And with not trying to tell you how much harm those bullets has caused him, such families do not even have access to justice. So you find someone like me, I have to come to avenues like these ones so that I can also amplify their voices. So my question to IPOA is, because part of his life, or 70% of his life, has been disoriented, how are you going to help this young man who in the first place was feared dead, and the reason is because he did not have an ID, and you know if someone dies, the only identification to his relatives is taking the fingerprints. So when the police do their scans, they don't find him on record, and the country saying he's dead, yet he is not. How are you coming to also make sure that he's not only protected, but is also able to acquire all those documents that were part of the reason as to why he was on the street? On the second question, we understand that there are people who either helped other demonstrators to go to the streets against their own wish, because there were 2 occasions. Some people were participating on demos online. Others went to the street. But there was those ones who did not want to go. But because he's a young man, a form ndo imetokea, haezi acha form. So how are we going to hold those people accountable? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's take one more burning. I want a lady, if there is a lady in the room. A lady. Okay, let me get the guy to the front here. The one in blue, light blue shirt. Thank you. This one. This one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Lerionka Tupunya Sunkuli. First and foremost, I'd like to say I'm very sorry to the mother who was just announced the loss of his son. And it's so much unfortunate. In our community, we are not supposed to shed tears because I'm a Maasai. But that mother has actually touched me. I really feel it bad when I see it's like my mother who is looking for me. Put on that shoe of that mother who is announcing the loss of her son. It is very, very painful. My question is, we have seen videos circulating, and I've attended all the demos of the killing of this Rex Masai. And the police have been masked out by the public, including the girlfriend, including his sons, the photos. But nothing has happened up to now. We have not even seen that police officer arrested. And we are here complaining that IPOA is doing something. It is totally doing nothing. My information that I'll close with it is to William Ruto. Take this information to the bank. We are waiting for you. God is also waiting for you. God is also waiting for you and watching for you. Charlene Ruto, please stop lecturing the youths. We have never seen any daughter or any son of a president coming to speak for the youth. Who are you? Go and nurse your injuries there. Thank you.
Kindly, if you could just pass the mic here.
Thank you.
Please, let's make the questions precise,
Yes.
to the point, because we are running out of time. Please, if you may.
Thank you. My name is Isaac. My question goes to the madam from IPOA. There are photos, videos circulating online. I believe you have seen them. As per now, how many police officers have been prosecuted? Number 2, last year during Azimio demos, very many people were killed. The issues were reported to IPOA. Even photo evidences were there. As per now, 1 year later, how many police officers are in court answering for killings of innocent protesters? And are we expecting any action anytime soon as per concerning people that were killed in the recent demos? If not, when are you guys from IPOA resigning, going home, so that we can disband that IPOA, we create a system that functions? Thank you. Anguka nayo.
Please, let's ensure that your questions are very brief because of time. Kindly, the lady. And then we will close at that point. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruth Ambogo, and mine is just to make a very brief statement. I happen to be one of the people who have been actively taking care of the some of the victims who went through whatever they went through during these demonstrations. And from my observation, all I would say is that these people need the support of the community. You know, sometimes what happens is that when someone, for instance, is abducted and found, people now go quiet and think that all is well. These people need beyond telling them pole. These people need you to act beyond asking them questions about what they went through. They need your support. They need your presence. Some of them need you to physically come and sit with them and just, spend some time with them. So if you hear or know of any of your friends, close friends, distant friends, who have gone through these horrendous experiences, find some time, look for them, but most importantly, do not bombard them with questions about what they went through. At their own time, they will tell you, and in their own fashion, they will explain to you what they've been through, but that support is very necessary. And the support should go beyond psychological support. Some of them need financial support. Some of them need to relocate from where they currently, or where they used to live, because they're not safe where they used to live. I hope you guys get me, right? And I'll donate 30 seconds to the LSK member to ask a question.
Because we're running out of time, I would like Commissioner to answer kindly.
Let me throw in just 1 second question. I want the Commissioner to give us an update. They are saying they have confirmed 39 people were killed. Were they involved in the pathologist, have they recovered the pathologist report, ballistic report to know where the guns came from, where the bullets came from? Those are the things we want to know so that we're able to know who are the guys we are going after. So they're not just stories of action. And so we want to know what have you done with the data. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So please, Commissioner Fatma, if you could, a lot of the questions were directed to you. The first one from Mama Mwangi, if you could, as IPOA, as an oversight authority, how can you help her to find his son? And then there was another one that was directed to you from a gentleman that was seated in the middle. There's a guy that has lost much of his ability to do anything, 70%. How do you ensure of his safety even as he continues to give information to IPOA? And what are some of the financial support from your organization that you can be able to accord the guy? And then the other question that came from the other end is, what are some of the cases as IPOA has instituted so far, and how many police are behind bars?
Okay. Thank you very much. Mama, I feel you. As a mother, I know what you're going through. And I just want to assure you that We'll work together. We'll see how best it is that we can help you so that we can also get your missing son. When it comes to the issue of Rex Masai, we have reviewed the clips, the CCTV cameras, and we find the suspect is still at large. We have done post-mortem, we were there. We are looking at the ballistics. You know, we don't even have labs to check on this ballistics. We rely on DCI. That's also another shortcoming that we have. So when we get DCI examining the same ballistics that they are using, it becomes a bit difficult. That is why during the task force of the Maraga, we recommended that the DCI forensic lab gets out of the DCI. It becomes independent. Those are the part of the reforms that we need as a country. That way we'll be able to analyze. So when we attend, we are not able to get ballistics. It becomes very difficult. What we're in the process and seeing how best. We have written letters to the IG to ensure that we get the correct number of details of what is missing in our report. In fact, the case of Rex Masai, we are almost closing in. And at the end of the day, I want to assure members of the public, we will get justice for Rex and all the 39 or 40 members who died of this Kenyan Republic. Postmortems we have attended. We are recording statements. At the end of the day, we'll assure you that we'll have justice. I think that's where I want to leave it at.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Fatma. LSK, be brief in terms of what are the helps that you can be able to give in relation to Thabita, who is seeking her son.
Thank you very much. My mother, it is unfortunate that for the past 2 weeks, you have not been able to sleep because you don't know where your son is. In law, we have a recourse of habeas application. After this, we'll be able to come and get in touch with you, and we get all the details, and we proceed to file a matter on habeas application. Because, as it has been narrated, it happened during the Maandamano, and it is known it is the police who are abducting. So we are going after them in that habeas application to produce him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tess. Let's get the closing remarks from Joshua as we wind up this session. Of course, the discussions are ongoing on Twitter, formerly now called X, so you can continue the conversation there. But Joshua, on your closing remarks, what is your call on action to the leaders that are listening and watching today?
IPOA, the members of IPOA, your difference, the difference between you and CSS is just time. So, the former CSS, yeah. So please get to work, don't be lazy, do that which you're paid to do, because you are getting your salaries from the Kenyan people. To my fellow young people, especially those who were abducted and found alive, I would love to encourage you to come out and speak. Because if you don't speak, if you don't tell people what is really happening, what this government and the police are really perpetuating, then no one is going to know the dark side of the police and the government at large. To everyone else, do not be deluded by the two things that have been done. Do not be cheated that because the cabinet secretaries have been dismissed, that because the Finance Bill 2024 was dropped or rejected, then someone is meaning well for you. They are not. Because if they did, we would not have gotten to a point where after killings, after abductions, after torture and everything, then the perpetrators are calling for dialogue. If they wanted dialogue, that should have been done way before. If they indeed meant well for the people of Kenya, and they wanted to engage the young people and act upon their requests and demands, they should have done this. I mean, to the very latest, should have been the first Tuesday when we went to the streets. Otherwise, they waited for a second protest, a third, and a fourth for them to act and to tell you that we are going for a dialogue. It's not going to work. They have not changed. They are the same people. They are the same people, the same characters, and they will be making the same decisions. Right now, they will make something that makes you happy to make you think that they're going to change. They're not going to change. Let us heed to the call to focus on the bigger goal, which is an overhaul of this government and let them go home. Because ultimately, no condition is permanent. Ruto must go, and this is a just cause. And when the cause is just, conquer we must. Please help me say that. When the cause is just, 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 and indeed we shall conquer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for that powerful closing remarks. At this point, I'd like to close.
Make my closing remarks.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh.
Thank you. Mine is twofold. One, in addition to IPOA, the NIS is also supposed to have a similar oversight body under Section 66 and 67. It has never been operationalized despite numerous court rulings. The National Intelligence Service, that's a major area. Then the second area is, and the chair of the student at KSL has clearly indicated that this revolution is being given to us with a lot of trickery and treachery. When the president rejected the finance bill, we all felt a sense of a win. But the following day, he signed something called the Appropriations Act. That gives him full powers to spend the budget that he created with the wrong priorities and so on. He said he needed to do it before June. People, that is a lie. The Constitution anticipates that we can close a financial year without an Appropriations Act. And thereafter, the government will only be allowed to spend 50% until a proper Appropriations Act has been passed. He has said he will amend it using a supplementary budget. Supplementary budget is for additions, not for deletions. Please, let us demand a new budget that has the people's priorities. Otherwise, he still has all the money to continue violating us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana, for those closing remarks. We thank you for sharing and the discussions that we've had. And we wish you well, Joshua, even as you seek justice for what was meted against you. So at this point, I'd like to invite the LSK president, Faith Odhiambo, to come and give her closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good job you're doing. How are you?
And we want to announce the Inspector General of Police has resigned. People's power, people's power. As we close, give me 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. First of all, I would like to say that the JKUAT students are asking that the police to receive their petition against the murder of one of their colleagues, Denzel Omondi. And so they're asking that their petition be received, that the police are humble enough to meet them, receive their petition for the full investigation onto the death of one of their very own, one of our very own, one of our comrades. We have seen the pain of a mother who is losing, who is missing one of her children. And so these are complaints that we ask all the police agents, take your work seriously. We seek that justice not only be done, but to be seen to be done. As we end this session for today, we have not, the Citizens Assembly will continue. We will collate what we have agreed today and share them as part of the views of the Citizens Assembly. We'll be working to come closer to each and every one of you. And our motto is, we are leaving no man behind. We will leave no man behind. So we invite one of our very own to end this session. Wenye hawatusikii tutafanya nini? Tutaanguka nayo.
Viva, comrades, viva! Viva, comrades, viva! I want us to take a 1 minute moment of silence for all the lives that we have lost. We are going to say their names, and when we say their names, you're going to say viva in their honor. Denzel Omondi, Brian Lemayan Kasaine, Austin Makoha, Mike Kihunga, Kelvin Madanga, and all the people whose lives have lost. Tutasonga kwa mapinduzi, tukomboe Kenya na wananchi wote. Social justice tupe uwezo. DJ. Haya, tutaimba wimbo wa mapambano. We'll raise our left hands in honor of our country. Kupigwa na kupokonywa maisha hakutatuzuia sisi wananchi kunyakua uhuru wetu na kia jasho letu na kia jasho letu. Tumekataa kupiga magoti mbele ya wauaji. Bila shaka sisi pia ni watu. utumwa tumeikataa, hali ya utumwa tumeikataa. Tutanyakua mashamba yetu, tupiganie uhuru wetu, tuikomboe elimu yetu, utamaduni na viwanda vyetu, utamaduni na viwanda vyetu. Sisi hatutaki kudhulumiwa, hatutaki tena mauaji, ili kupe tuliangushe, haki na uhuru zichanue, haki na uhuru zichanue, na uhuru wetu wa Kenya, wa Kenya, uhuru wetu wa Kenya, tupiganie mashamba yetu wa Kenya, wa Kenya, mashamba yetu wa Kenya,
tupinyakue
na jenzi wetu
wa Kenya, wa Kenya,
na jenzi wetu wa Kenya,
tutee katiba yetu wa Kenya, wa Kenya,
katiba yetu wa Kenya, tutekeleze.
Holeyo,
Holeyo, holeyo, viva.
Wanaibia nini? Ya pisi yangu. Brayo. Kwa wana Brayo yako naweza nikula mbaba.